Welcome to Fashion Neurosis, Sarah.
Thank you.
Can you tell me what you're wearing today and why you chose these particular clothes?
Yes, I can. Guess I'll start at my feet. I'm wearing brand new because I'm on your white couch, but my absolute favorite shoe designer, the queen of the party shoe, Amina Muaddi.
Mm.
And then going up, I'm wearing Shaitan anklets, which are my designs. And then I'm wearing a vintage Jean Paul Gaultier dress. And I chose it because the colors seem to fit your mid century modern home. And it's very comfortable and it matches the shoes perfectly. JMM glasses, I
Mm.
believe.
They're so
And
beautiful, I must
thank
say.
you. Thank you. They have a bit of a tint on the lens and I like it. It kind of diffuses light. It makes it very comfortable to wear all day.
My perfect kind of 70s style glamorous
My
intellect
favorite era.
from, I love them. They're gorgeous.
Thank you.
And your name is Sarah, and you're also known as Mia Khalifa, who is extremely famous. And is it necessary for you to separate yourself from such a public persona with a different name?
I don't know about necessary, but I think that as I've grown older, I've become more comfortable with Mia rather than the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bit of a clash in the beginning where when I harbored a lot more shame, I I would kind of twinge at Mia, but now I've accepted her more.
Mm. When you were a child, was there a garment that you obsessed about, like a thing that you longed to wear?
Everything in the Betsy Johnson store. That was my era growing up as a preteen and a teenager. That was her prime. Every time we would walk by that in the mall and I was allowed to look in the store and pick one thing a year, usually around my birthday. Gosh, she would make the most out of this world, just kooky, crazy designs that were so girly. I loved her so much.
So you were kind of going for the girly. That was what you wanted to sort of embody at that point.
Yeah, but funnily enough, the way I actually dressed was very androgynous and tomboy, and I
Mm,
even chopped all my hair off at one point
really?
in the
How
middle of the
old?
night.
No. What was that? What were you? Because I always think there's this point kind of. I mean, for me, it was like when I was around 8, where I really had to align my identity with through what I wore, and I didn't have many things, and I became fixated on a particular shirt, and what was going on in terms of your identity at that point?
I was being introduced to punk rock
Oh my
and
God.
and I was in love with skater boys, and I don't know why I thought I had to dress and look like one,
Mm.
but that's kind of where it came from. I wanted to look like Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day,
Oh my
so
God.
I cut my hair into a mop like his. And my punishment when everybody woke up the next morning was that it wasn't getting fixed. I had to live with that haircut until it grew out, which is kind of
God.
traumatizing.
That's so mean,
It
isn't
is,
it?
isn't it?
I think children's punishments are just so,
I
they're
know.
just.
I'd rather have gotten beaten. No, I'm kidding.
And when you were at school, you described your mother wanting to give you Lebanese snacks, like Lebanese cheese for your snacks, and how
Oh
mortifying that
my
was. And
God.
snacks are such a currency at school. And did your mum have some understanding of your need to fit in?
None whatsoever. There was no understanding of that because there was also a huge culture shock on their end.
Mm,
They were, I mean, they were children essentially who got married and had kids and then emigrated to a new foreign land for a better life. And they were terrified of losing their identity. So they tried, we weren't allowed to speak anything but Arabic at home when we came home
really?
from school. Yeah, which I'm grateful for
Yeah.
because now I still speak it. But I also I also had no value in school at lunchtime. No one wanted to trade snacks with me.
Mm.
And I was already an ESOL and I already had a weird haircut. and a bit of an accent. I had a lot going against me, and the snacks did not help.
No, the snacks are disasters. I had that like hippie snacks that I used to go under the table and quickly eat them. But, you had nothing to barter with.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mm,
it also, I mean, now it smells delicious, but kids in school are mean and they would make
mm.
fun of how it smells. And oh, now it breaks my heart to think about, oh, I'm gonna cry, to think about bringing back home the bag and the food still being there and her asking me if I didn't like it or if I wasn't hungry. And I would get upset why there wasn't something in there like an uncrustable or something in like high in saturated fats. And now I'm like, am I stupid? I was eating organic Mediterranean food, like home cooking every single day, and wishing I was eating processed fake government cheese.
Mm. I totally identify. I would have longed for some of that tinned things, anything. And
Yeah,
it just, it meant so much more than food. It meant some sort of respectability in society, for me anyway, of like the whole thing of fitting in is such a big deal.
exactly.
Um, yeah, because, and do you remember what the first thing you wore was when you actually wanted to invite disapproval?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. I think it was I was able to convince her to get me a pair of checkered Vans. And then I went to school one day and I had all of the white squares I had done something different to with my pen and
Wow.
or with a permanent marker.
Mm,
And that that garnered a lot of disapproval because those were $40 Vans. Those were brand new shoes that I had vandalized.
that's
And
so cool.
I know, but
What did you write? Like just things that
oh,
meaningful.
like GD in one square, and then I would color one in, and then I would do like just lines in one, just, just doodling in
Mm,
them. But I was discouraged from kind of showing personality and
gosh.
individuality when I was younger. There's a lot of pressure, I think, in a lot of cultures, like in Indian and Latin and Middle Eastern cultures and a lot of Asian cultures to conform and be similar and follow follow the line of your family and kind of do everything to appease that micro society and the community that you're in,
Yeah.
and anything outside of that is seen as, I mean, as a black sheep, and they got to diet.
Like a betrayal of values, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. God, that must have been so hard because you have such a fantastically charismatic personality, and it's what's so one of your it's so appealing and endearing as well.
Thank you.
Um, I know I didn't have that because of my background was different from yours, but when I tried to emulate my mother's rebellious position that she'd taken, I was punished and criticized and misunderstood. So I found it really confusing. Like, well, she did that and she's told me about that, and yet I'm doing something similar, and there is no tolerance whatsoever. They didn't want to listen at all.
Oh,
Um,
I think I just felt my ulcer grow because now I'm very terrified of what future I have coming for me. I fear that all of the lessons I have to teach will be then used against me as a,
mm,
well, you did this. Why is it not okay if I do it? And when you're young and your frontal cortex hasn't fully formed, you don't understand that an adult telling you what not to do isn't them trying to control you. It's them trying to guide you. And no one under the age of 27, 28 will ever see it like that.
but I think the only thing that my mother forgot to do was explain that it's just acknowledge my kind of the my questions and my sort of disobedience instead of slapping it down, because she had told me how brutal her father had been with her and how they'd really she'd run away from home because she couldn't, it was intolerable. But then when I did minor things, she was so freaked out that she just didn't bother to tell me, like, look, I get it, but do it like this. And so don't worry, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I feel
won't.
like we've done a lot more work on ourselves
Yeah.
than our parents have.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've learned how to, and I mean this in a good way, manipulate a situation so someone doesn't feel like they're being control like we
Mm.
know, yeah. Yeah.
But even just, this listening is such a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what one of the things with kind of learning how to do things differently is learning how to listen and not, that kind of reaction that
Oh,
creates misunderstanding.
I have to work on that.
I think you'll be okay. You're so, you seem so kind of eager to understand things, and it's the willingness that makes everything, I think anyway. How has being the target of so much desire made it difficult for you to know what you actually want?
I think it's the other way around. I think that I spent so much of my younger life not knowing what it was to be desired that
Mm,
I was willing to I was willing to give myself to people who were only giving me validation in exchange and not a safe place
mm,
or anything other than something as temporary and fleeting as that. I think that as I've grown older, desire doesn't really mean anything. I think curiosity means a lot more than desire.
mm.
That's what moves me when someone is curious, not when someone is like just desires me.
Yeah, because it's such a seductive thing, and it feels
Curiosity is
like,
so much more erotic than desire.
yeah,
Desire is that's human nature. It's carnal, but curiosity is it pokes something in here,
mm,
and it's a very clear difference when someone is interested for one reason or another. And I've learned that as I've gotten older. The
yeah.
discernment is, I mean, the frontal cortex is a major organ, muscle, whatever it is.
Because you've talked about your insecurity and low self-esteem and making decisions from that perspective. And what would you have done instead with your current self-knowledge, do you think?
I would have protected myself more,
Mm,
and I would have stood up for myself more, and I would have advocated, and I would have been a lot more. Not everyone deserves you. And yeah, I I'm on a journey right now of celibacy. And I've really, really, really found peace in it.
mm,
It's so comforting and it's just so nice to know that I personally am in a place where my standards are set in stone and they're unwavering, and it just really makes me feel like I finally know who I am and I finally know what I want. And unless that's met, I provide everything for myself,
yeah.
including a climax.
That's incredible. I mean, it's an amazing thing to hear you say that, because it's like, it's such a powerful thing to be desired. And it's very it's very confusing as well, because it's very difficult not to well, I'm only, speaking for my, not to respond to that, because it's such a kind of, it feels like love at at the time. It's so softening, and then to take that out of the picture and explore what you're actually kind of responding to. I mean, most people, either they become monks and nuns, or they wait until midlife crisis hits them and try that out. It's a very adventurous and also, I mean, you have a lot of courage with your huge amount of intelligence, and I wonder where does that come from? Your this kind of single-mindedness, but it's not just single-minded. It really is courage. You've gone through a lot.
I think, well, first of all, there's more power I found in withholding myself than in giving myself and using that as a ploy or relishing in that feeling of what it feels like to be desired and to give into that. I've found a lot more power in the word no
Mm,
and in that. But I think I don't know. I truly believe that knowledge is power, and I hope that I don't come off as single-minded, although I am extremely stubborn and mm,
I
very difficult to be convinced out of my stance on a lot of positions. But I do pride myself in also being able to listen and understand when I don't have full knowledge of something and could be wrong on something, and then I'm curious and I want to know and I want to see if my mind can be changed. And I think that that's really exciting and fun and what makes human interaction so like those are my favorite types of conversations with people where we're kind of having a back and forth of our defenses of
mm,
our our points of view, and it's done in a way where we're not defensive, but we're both curious. And I think that that comes when both parties aren't that like committed to whatever they're talking about.
mhm. But more easygoing in the subject matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, for me, single-minded is a huge compliment,
It
so
is.
I pay it to you as that. But
What do you mean by single-minded
well, I
then?
suppose I mean
Oh, I
like
think I'm
with
I'm taking it as
originality.
narrow-minded.
Oh God, no, no.
Oh.
So for me, single-minded is originality and
Oh,
adherence to something that, an idea that you believe in. So it can be quite a lonely place because you're often
it
up
is.
ahead. So,
It is, but it also feels like that's where integrity lives, and
mm,
that's where
mm,
you need to stand on your values and and your boundaries. That's where that is.
yeah.
So I am thank you for seeing that. We've known each other for very little, and to say that about me, I take that as a huge compliment that that's what I give off.
No, you do.
Thank you.
And what about the culture wars? Do you find lack of comprehension comes from older people? Because you seem to be creating a different language for young people to use around these issues of self-worth and kind of being single-minded.
I think the world would be a better place if everyone born after the year 1985 went to therapy. Unfortunately, we can't make that happen, so all we can do is is hope for this generation.
It seems like more people do go to, I mean, certainly I would advocate anyone born before 1985 go to therapy because young people seem more interested in understanding or knowing themselves in the way different from my generation where, no one did unless you were sort of in a sort of under a psychiatrist or something.
Do you think it's because the age of the internet has made us all a little bit more self-indulgent and therefore more introspective?
I don't know if it's self-indulgent. It's like a good idea is more
Yeah.
obviously a good idea, and so it's norm. And maybe my generation, who grew up where my parents' generation had experienced the Second World War and everyone had been traumatized and no one went to therapy. And my generation were like, we cannot be like that. We have to be more understanding, or we have to understand how to not be like our parents in some ways, the ways. But yeah, it seems much more accepted in young people to and appreciated by each other. Is that fair to say?
Completely. And I think
Mm,
that we're also encouraging our parents' generation to go to therapy, or at least therapizing them
mm,
and instilling change in them and pressuring them and forcing new thoughts and ideals into their minds
mm,
and putting them at least in front of them. And I think that what's worked is also kind of removing yourself from, because there's a huge trend. I don't know how it is here
mm,
with we have in America Thanksgiving every year, and
mm,
every year on that time there's always a trend on the internet of, here I come into Thanksgiving to ruin dinner by asking who they're voting for, asking about their political stance, or asking about this. But there's always those instigators, and that's a huge trend in this generation, and it's beautiful. No
mm,
one was doing that before. No one was speaking up at dinner tables and kind of calling them out for their hypocrisy or their bigotry or any of that. And it's just so close-minded and wrong.
mm,
So I love that. This generation, and I'm talking about Gen Z, not even mine, because that's not how it was when I was growing up going to Thanksgiving. It's the younger generation that's brave enough and does not care. They are so firm in their beliefs. It's so
mm.
beautiful.
Yeah, it is incredible seeing some of the kids on TikTok just being so matter of fact about things that are considered radical in politics, but it's so sensible, and the way they speak is just completely normal.
Yeah.
It's exhilarating to see that.
And I guess that's the catch-22 of the accessibility to information, but it's also leaves you susceptible to misinformation.
Yeah, of course. Is there someone who's influenced your idea of glamour? Who do you find glamorous?
I find my business partner and manager and best friend, Sarah Byrne, glamorous. Like, she's glamorous because she will go on holiday with a carry-on and a pair of sweatpants and the clothes she's wearing on the airplane and 2 pairs of shoes, and one of them is the Birkenstocks she's wearing on the airplane, and the other is a pair of bedazzled Miu Miu mules, which is how we call them, Miu Miu mules.
I love
And
that.
she will make, I kid you not, 17 different outfits out of those things. Every I never see her not looking glamorous, even if she has just woken up in her pajamas. She always adds something to her outfit, whether it's a shoelace or a ribbon or whatever it is. She's just so I love the way she thinks, and it's inspired me so much in the way that I dress.
How about your packing, though?
No, I still have
Yeah,
4 suitcases everywhere I
yeah.
go. I'm trying to learn, but
Yes, I'm a heavy packer.
me too.
I just gave up. I remember going to live in the Caribbean for a few months when I was 18, and half my suitcase I put all my records in there, even though I didn't have a record player. I just couldn't.
Oh my
I
god,
just
that's so
have
funny. I
have
travel with incense and books and end up never touching them, but it
yeah,
comforts me to know that they're there.
yeah. I know. I think I just decided I can't travel late, so I'll just take everything, and that is kind of liberating. So
But you know what? Your home is I I think I love seeing it on your series because it reminds me of it kind of it's a mausoleum of your personality and your life. And I guess that translates into the way you pack. You can't leave without those things and those reminders and the ephemera of all of that stuff. So there's nothing wrong with that. You could travel with your emotional support ninja air fryer.
I know my ninja's always like when I'm feeling really defensive, I send a friend a picture, an emoji picture of a ninja, and that means I need a hug.
Oh.
And it's so good because it's I have to be very clear about my kind of offhand behavior, which actually means I feel terribly isolated and I need comfort, but I can't say it. So,
What's your love language?
what I don't know what that means really. What do you mean? What does that
The
mean?
5 love languages is physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, uh, what are the other ones? I'm blanking on the other ones, but mine is physical touch.
Yeah, I think mine is
Yeah.
too. I
Like,
think
even if we're sleep like, I get very I can't sleep and cuddle,
mm,
but at the very least, my pinky will be on your back. Like, my
yeah,
finger will be
yeah.
touching my toe will be touching the back of your calf.
I know. I think that's probably mine too. A hug
Oh.
is everything because
Yeah.
words are just too easy to play with.
Yeah.
And so a hug is unmistakably a comfort gesture. So, yes, I'll remember that. If you fancy someone and don't like what they're wearing, does it kill your attraction to them?
Well, it depends. It depends on if I don't like what they're wearing because it's just mismatched and haphazardly thrown together, or if I don't like what they're wearing because it doesn't feel authentic to them.
Have you got any like pet, things that you'll struggle with if you see them on someone you like?
Mm. Too many logos,
Mm,
too many logos, or like a walking billboard. Like your hat and your shirt can't have a phrase on it. Pick one.
right. And what happens internally? Is it just like a reversed magnet? You feel yourself retreating.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Because
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like when people don't dress from a place of authenticity, it reveals an insecurity or maybe that they're still trying to find themselves. And then I have a very like natural instinct to run from that because people who don't know themselves will not bring you peace in your life.
Yeah,
They'll wreak havoc on you and absorb you and your personality. And
that's so interesting actually, because if I think there's certain things I find kind of off-putting, but
what?
well, my latest thing is a bad t-shirt on a man.
What is a bad t-shirt though? An ill-fitting one or just an old one?
No, an old one's kind of fine,
Yeah.
but like a bad neckline, the sleeve length at the worst place, tight in the wrong places,
Yeah.
and really that sort of the kind of maybe arrogance is too strong a word, but just putting this thing on that shouldn't be worn. I sound so exacting, and it is, but I just noticed someone who I quite like wearing this appalling t-shirt, and I think it was partly because it made him look as though Mummy had dressed him. So I was like, "Oh, I've got to get out of here. This is just so bad.
Oh my
What's
God.
happening to me?" And I had to keep like resetting myself, like, you know,
I just got shivers. Oh my God, there's nothing scarier than that because you
yeah.
know what? If you felt that way, he probably did consult his mom or she gifted it to him and he doesn't know any better or have his own like thought processes to choose something different or to discern whether it's right for him or not. If she says yes, then he would wear it. And maybe a sales associate he fancies suggested he wears it because she wanted to meet her quota that month and he just bought it and wore it because he doesn't think twice about what he's putting on. That says a
Yeah.
lot about someone.
Well, yeah, it does say a lot, but sometimes it says more about
You?
my own interpretation. It's like, how can
No.
I make sure that I don't get close to someone? Oh, the T-shirt is a disaster. I've got to leave the country, you know.
Okay, now
It's a kind of
are we ignoring
avoidance strategy.
your avoidance?
I think it kind of comes out in places like that. I'm only just putting these things together at this late stage. This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. Stress has become a huge player in our working lives. Stress may be a commonly used word to describe how we feel, but the feeling is still such a powerful influence on our behaviour. It feels constricting, and the things that make me feel better are walking, listening to audiobooks, or having a perfect cup of coffee. Therapy is a thing that has helped me alongside these activities. Knowing and being able to trust another person's perspective when my mind is whirring is a huge relief. With over 5,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/neurosis. That's betterhelp.com/neurosis.
You know, I have found that lately I've been asking myself, because I've kind of been questioning, is my celibacy a choice or is it a subconscious thing where
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually getting in my own way? And when I tell my friends about why I'm no longer interested in someone that, I start to get to know, I I ask them like, am I being too picky? And they're like, no. You just know what you want and you have good judgment and you can see 10 steps ahead and you don't need to pass all of these other pit stops of red flags to get to that point. You can already see through all of that. Because everything we do, everything we wear, everything we say is a very revealing thing about us, way deeper than what it actually is surface level. And
Mm.
I think a lot of people wouldn't get it unless they've done work on themselves and unless they have that discernment in life, and you clearly do. The t-shirt is not, it's not a sticking point. Like, they say that shoes say a lot about somebody, and that's not in a judgmental way about like a tattered pair of shoes, but it's it's very, everything is very revealing. Everything,
Mm.
every choice we make is reflective of who we are and what we stand for. So, no, you're not judgmental.
I am done. I know. I totally own it. And, you know,
I have to give you a pass because I have to give myself a pass.
yeah.
I'm projecting over here.
I mean, I think I'm interested. Before, my father was very judgmental, and it was so thrilling to see someone who was that certain that I thought, I'm going to be like that. But then it became a bit of a trap and a habit. So now it's a lot better, and I don't think it's a bad thing to be judgmental, but it's boring if you get stuck in a position that you'd like to reverse or come out of in some way. So, um, I mean, I suppose it's entertaining. He would make these damning comments about people, and it was very funny. But I mean, back to the celibacy subject, I think it's a great way to find out about when you've been very sexualized, and it often happens, you know, when people have experienced sexual abuse as children, that it's it's sort of a familiar place,
Yeah.
and it's a very kind of terrifying familiar place. So to experiment with a bit of abstinence is very adventurous and just cool. I mean, you're young, you've got plenty to play with, and I think it's great. I
Girl, the
think it's
pickings are slim out there
fascinating.
though. It's rough.
But it's like responding to what, you know, the thing you said earlier about curiosity being
Yeah.
your the thing that you find exciting and interesting and alluring, and it's a way of finding out something to take away the thing that gets in the way, which is what's supposed to be it, but you're
Yeah,
taking that away. So you have more visibility of something that you don't even know what it is, but you're on the journey to find out. Is
exactly.
very roundabout.
The impetus for it was actually a breakup, and after that, I really, really, really wanted. I want the next person that I'm with. I want to choose to give myself to them for a
Yeah.
completely different reason than I ever have chosen to give myself to anyone before. And I think that's what's going to make it so special.
Mm. That's very moving. It's so impressive. It's really impressive to
Thank
hear
you.
about. And do you feel that part of freeing yourself from being sexualized is part of your interest in fashion and clothes and jewelry and,
Actually, that's funny you say that because um I had a very restrictive mindset about my body before I entered the fashion world this much.
mm,
I wanted like a very unhealthy amount of control over who can see my body because I feel like the 21-year-old version of me it is is able to be viewed by anybody who wants to see her,
yeah.
and I wanted an unhealthy amount of control over who can see me to the point where I would never even I would never show my nipples anywhere. I was so insanely protective over that. And the more I've been in the fashion world, the more I've been on on sets and around other models and around other women and around people who eh, just see the human body as art, not as something
Mm,
to be sexualized. It has freed me so much.
yeah.
It has made me so much more open and able to just be in my body, like just as flesh, just as anyone else. That has been absolutely life changing. I felt like before I was kind of in a prison that I built for myself. Like I wanted to spite people and not give that up. And I didn't know that instead of instead of having control, which is what I thought I was doing, I was actually limiting myself and I wasn't free and I subconsciously felt trapped. So the fashion industry has really saved me because pasties aren't chic. Nipples are chic.
It's amazing. I mean, it's so interesting that that would be the reverse of what would be assumed, but
Yeah.
there is something freeing the
Yeah.
body as this tool for showing clothes and for emphasizing something or suppressing something to do with what's
Yes.
about this garment and projecting a character, really. Because it's so interesting that clothes can give you this freedom instead. When they can free you from self-consciousness. I
Yes.
really do believe that.
Completely.
Mm,
3 years ago, I never in a million years would have like I would have shut down at the idea of being nude again. But now I see so much beauty and artistic freedom and
mm,
liberation in the idea of being nude under a piece of beautiful silk or lace or even just being nude. It feels I think I've also grown away from my shame and away from my trauma and
yeah.
grown into myself and my comfort. And I've been able to kind of shut out the people who view me in a sexualized way and be able to continue on and do what I want to do because it makes me feel free or beautiful or like I'm getting a message I want to get across because that's also what your body is for. And meeting people like the incredible artist Linda Sterling and seeing
Yeah.
how she uses her body and how she champions other women's bodies and how she protects them while also showcasing them is so inspiring and so freeing. I I would not have been in the same place had I not been introduced to people like her or like I went to an exhibition with Sarah. I'm not speaking in third person. I'm talking about
No, you're
my friend.
yes.
Um, I think Carolee Schne.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Schneemann, isn't it?
yes,
Yes.
exactly. Oh my,
Did
she
you yeah.
changed my life. That exhibition, like I just got full body chills even saying that and thinking about it. She made art out of her tampons. She made art out of her sexual conquests.
Mm.
She kept a diary of every single one, the sound that they made when they finished, the size, the amount, the texture, the viscosity, every microscopic detail. Her body was her vessel for for everything.
Mm.
Like even down to like swinging herself from a piece of rope and free bleeding onto a canvas. Like
Oh,
it's
God.
I know. Like it's extreme, but seeing an extreme and seeing something like Linder's work
Mm.
and finding my space in that in between has been uh, has saved me.
That's so amazing because I saw I r I saw an exhibition of her work at the Barbican and
That's the one I went
yeah,
to.
yeah, and then her covering herself in paint and rolling
Oh,
around, and
that's what it was. Yeah.
it was so it was just so
Oh my
magnificent, but it
God.
was really good too.
Yes,
She was
and every medium too,
mm,
from like art to collage to
yeah,
video to blood, like everything. And it really opened my mind to the possibilities and the unlimited like ways that we have of expressing ourselves. I never thought that that would be allowed, let alone showcased at a place
mm.
like the Barbican. And I
No,
was so grateful
it
to
was
see that.
it was so good, and it's interesting, you talking about shame as well, because that seems like the antithesis of shame.
Yes,
But it's like a rehabilitation of our notions of shame. Because, I mean, I was interested in the things that you've said about shame because I found it to be the most paralyzing and debilitating condition, which
me too.
poisons every action. And I wondered when you'd first become aware of shame.
Very early.
Mm,
Very early, and I think I have to go back to the cultural aspect of cultures like the Latin cultures and the Middle Eastern cultures and the Asian cultures that are so heavy on inflicting shame for stepping out of what's expected of you. And I think I've learned so much about how I would want to raise kids
mm,
from that because shame is the most powerful human emotion. It will cripple you, it will ruin you, it will it's 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 debilitating, it's
mm,
terrible, it's the worst thing in the world, and to experience something like that at an age like 5, 7,
yeah.
12, it's very hard to work back from. Like, I didn't even know that that's what I was harboring
Mm,
until I started EMDR therapy.
yeah. I know I remember going to therapy and the therapist, it was a group therapy. I was probably about in my late 20s and she talked about shame and it was like a light bulb. I had no idea that's what it was, but I suddenly realized, oh my God, that's what it is. It's just that thing that makes you do the opposite of what you want to do. And
Exactly.
it just, it makes you not be able to protect yourself because you're rooted to the spot. And I feel like it's like a transgenerational thing as well. Because if I think about what my mum went through, and my mortification about myself. And, so when and I've heard you talk about it, and it's particularly impressive and touching and moving to see how you're breaking out, and how you've talked about creativity being such a necessary part of this, you know, describing these artists and what you do in your work and your jewelry, and it's it's really something.
You. It's yeah, it's a very difficult mindset to grow out of
Mm,
and to even look back on. And yeah, that's something that you really have to always work hard to reconcile if you
yeah,
want if you if you want to maintain relationships with the people who inflicted that on you, I think.
yeah. It's a really weird one, and I mean, I noticed, like, even in the way I designed clothes, I wouldn't dare do a big slit up the side because I'd think, ugh, I don't want anyone to see me. And then I thought, this is restricting me so much, and it's taken so many years, and I just, it's like a curse. It really is. And then, but it is possible, I don't have it anymore. I mean, it's taken a hell of a long time, but I never thought it would go, just this feeling of humiliation without anything happening.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great way to put it. It's a constant feeling of embarrassment
Mm,
and you don't know why.
mm. And you've referred to yourself as autistic,
Yeah.
and I wondered whether this diagnosis help to compartmentalize trauma, or how does it relate to your sense of yourself?
It's not necessarily about trauma. It's more
Mm,
so about my current like my behavior and the way that I speak and the things that I say before without realizing that, oh, that might not be received the way I intend for it to be received.
mm.
N- maybe maybe they feel like that's harsh and they usually do. And
Maybe that's just because 'cause you're really intelligent. I think it is.
aren't most intelligent people autistic? Aren't most geniuses autistic? No, but it's also in behavior like maybe not being as maybe not behaving in a way that would be expected of you or being as uh consoling as you normally would be or kind of giving somebody advice when what they need is comfort or maybe it's mental tics, physical
Mhm.
tics, things like that. That's my holdup usually.
Right. Yeah, because when I was watching your interview with Louis Theroux, and at one point he said, "What's that face?" And then you said,
Oh
"Oh,
my
it's
god.
my autism." But I looked at your face and it seemed adorable, like you were having quite a natural response to some funny thing that he'd
No,
said.
but
But
my face really like that was a huge fighting point in my last relationship. My facial reactions to things and I've been told in couples therapy that my facial expressions and my reactions are visceral and they're very cutting and
mm,
they make somebody feel um less than or they can be belittling or they can be extremely judgmental and that's what like some like to somebody who I'm doing an interview with they can be quirky and funny but to somebody who's
yeah,
in my life they can be really really harsh and not sensitive
yeah,
and that's where it kind of gets in my way.
Right. So it's a container to kind of quantify something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you said, "I'm so scared of everything, yet people are scared of me. I don't see myself as a threat. I just
Yeah.
see myself as a loudmouth, annoying little girl." And I mean, I remember when I was a teenager dressed in punk clothes and being so shocked by how frightened adults were of me. And because you're very quick and articulate, I wondered, has language always been at your disposal? And
It's been my shield. From a
mm,
very young age, from growing up not coming to America and not speaking English and not having a way to not being misunderstood is a very isolating feeling,
mm,
and when you don't have the words to properly express yourself, it can feel like trying to run in a dream, like, no matter how hard you try, it's not happening, and you feel frustrated, and you don't know why because you can't control it because you're in a dream, but when I feel like I learned at a very young age that words are power,
mm,
and I wasn't allowed to watch much TV. I wasn't even allowed to go outside very much. Like, our bedtime was 7:30,
mm.
even in the summertime when the sun would set at 9 p.m., and the only thing that I had was books, and not even a lot of books, only like, approved books, and one of them was the dictionary.
Oh my gosh.
One dictionary in Arabic to English, and
Yeah.
one Merriam-Webster's dictionary, and those like, I felt like a kid in a candy store with that book. I felt so powerful every day when it would come time to, "Okay, finished homework, showered, I have this little bit of free time to read." I would feel so excited to go and learn new words because a lot of the words in there are also salacious, and I felt like I had a secret from my parents that they didn't know about that they couldn't take away
That's
from me.
so interesting.
Because if they knew what was in there, then
Yeah.
they would ban me from watching it like some of the shows that I wasn't allowed to watch.
Mm.
And I also found that the more the more words I knew, the more I understood, and the more I understood, the more I was able to express myself, and it just opened so many doors for me from a very early age. And even shows like like the Colbert Report and Saturday Night Live. Like, there was very nuanced jokes in there and a lot of, like, big words that were used that I feel like I otherwise wouldn't have understood if I wasn't immersing myself in honestly, a very autistic special interest, which was the dictionary.
That's so clever. I love that. That's really good. Oh, God. Well, I mean, I think as a young woman to have language, it's you don't have physical power. And
Yeah.
I remember thinking that when I was 12, I've got to make these words like arrows, they've got to really be able to hurt people
Yes.
because I felt like that. I didn't have any agency. So I needed this arsenal of weaponry, and it was language.
And also the only time growing up in high school and in middle school, I was also extremely overweight and the only brown girl in my school county. I grew up in a very predominantly white part of the suburbs of Washington, D.C. and
Mhm.
Maryland. Um, the only validation I got outside of my body and having breasts was from teachers when I was able to talk to them
Mm.
and just have back and forths, whether it's about social studies or with my English teacher or whatever it may be. But I found a lot of comfort in adults, and I also found that the key to speaking to adults is being able to understand what they're saying without them having to speak down to your level.
Yeah,
It make them more comfortable with you, and yeah, that was that. I guess that kind of stuck with me.
yeah. I know it's a a joy as you get older to be able to say, "What does that mean?" Because you don't feel humiliated anymore. You're
No,
saying,
it
"Oh, it's
I
fine."
love I love when I get to say that. I
Mm.
love when and I love even more when somebody is excited to explain something and
Yeah.
not, diminish like, put you down for
Yeah.
not knowing it. And that's also where I found so much, like, safety in adults who are willing to teach me things and who are willing to indulge my curiosity.
And you've talked about the importance of creativity and how much it settles and energizes you, and you have a jewelry brand, Shaitan. And, why did you choose jewelry?
From a very young age, like, from being a baby, that's been, like, how you show love, but not in a materialistic way, but in a way that says, like, "This is going to last past all of us, and I I I give it to you. I pass it down to you to pass down to your next ones and to have forever." So, jewelry in the Middle East is very, 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 like, a part of the culture. So I always grew up with, like, that being, like, the thing you get from your great aunt or your mom or whoever it may be for very special occasions, not just birthdays, but for, like, milestones. Like,
Mm.
when when I started my menstrual cycle, I got a beautiful pair of ruby earrings, like,
Oh,
just, like, little studs, and like, that's how the mindset in
wow.
Middle Eastern culture is, like, those are graduations and engagements and, like, thing like, little milestones like that. A great report card, things like that were rewarded with jewelry. Like, birthdays and stuff, yes, but it was so much more meaningful than that, and,
Yeah.
I mean, also, body adornment is I mean, it started in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia, and, um, yeah, I've even before I could find body jewelry, I was putting together like, going to jewelers and putting together necklaces or men's bracelets that could fit around my ankles and
Mm.
customizing things, and when I came to the decision that I wanna create something, I was trying to decide what it was. Things that aligned with me were lingerie because that's something that I also have a huge passion for. Like
Mm.
what I'm wearing underneath, what you can't see, the perfume I'm wearing, things like that. Like I didn't know if I wanted to make scents or lingerie or jewelry, but jewelry just felt so much more intimidating because it's such a precious metal.
Yeah.
But when I expressed that to my business partner, Sarah, she kind of took me out of that imposter syndrome and said,
Mm.
"What like you learn you have a vision, you know what you like to wear, you clearly have like taste
Mm.
and creativity in that field. You don't have to sit there and make the jewelry. That's not your job to do." And that really opened my mind and
Mm.
made me feel so much more comfortable. And making jewelry is the greatest joy in my life. I still feel a little bit of imposter syndrome around it, but I'm very much working on that, but it's because it's so precious to me. Like
Yeah.
and I'm very connected to rocks.
Yeah.
And that's what like diamonds and emeralds and rubies are at the end of the day. They're very precious rocks and I I just feel so much responsibility in making things, and I just wanna make them with so much integrity, and I hope that they're received in the same way. I there's a lot that goes into choosing where I make the jewelry and where it's produced and who it's produced with and what what types of things like, there's I see people doing it in ways that are like, they're producing a lot, but I'd much rather do it the way I'm doing it because
Mm.
it's so much more precious to me than just production and selling something.
It also seems fitting that you choose the intimidating thing because you're a person of courage, and it's how to exercise it and show that what everything you're capable, which seems so much.
Thank you. I never thought about it like that.
Was it your mother who gave you the ruby earrings? I That is the most
Well, it was a
beautiful.
family gift, yeah.
Yeah, because that's such a moment of kind of embarrassment as well, and to be kind of welcomed into the adult world in such a kind of, kind of, well,
Yeah,
I just
looking
think it's
back on it, it's
incredible.
yeah, I'm actually very, very surprised because considering everything else surround like, yeah, I'm very, very grateful for how that like, I got flowers that day too,
Wow.
and it was just such yeah, there was no if there was a lot of shame around a lot of other things, the
Mhm.
music I chose, the like, everything, every aspect of my personality was criticized and nitpicked, but when it came to that, I was so protected, and I'm so
Mm.
grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, it's clearly kind of given you this strength, which is what you're so admired for, and it's so interesting to talk to you. And thank you so much for being on Fashion Neurosis. It's just been a joy.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so healing and beautiful. You're these episodes are they're so comforting for me, and I didn't think it would be this healing for me to actually do it. This was my favorite thing I've ever done.
Well, it means so much to me, Sarah. It's wonderful. Thank you for that validation.
Thank you.